It's all but done in the United States. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, the president-elect of the United States of America. But what does this mean for Jamaica, for the Caribbean, for the world? Hello, I'm Damion Mitchell, and thank you for joining us for another special edition of the Gleaner Editors Forum. Today, the road ahead for the US after this November elections. To help us dissect the issues, we are joined by Dr. Basil Wilson, former professor of the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, Ambassador Curtis Ward, former ambassador and deputy permanent representative of Jamaica to the United Nations, Irwine Clare, he is a diaspora leader. He's also a director of the Caribbean Immigrant Services. We have also Dr. Rupert Green, a Republican, but he says not a Trump supporter. And we also do have Patrick Beckford. He is a Democratic strategist. So, gentlemen, may I begin with each of you in 60 seconds saying what this Biden win means for the United States. Irwine Clare, let's begin with you in 60 seconds.
Well, first and foremost, good day to your illustrious panel. A significant burden has been relieved of us, speaking for myself, because in this time I realized the plurality of the vote. I never tried to say what in the other person's mind, but I can say this: relief and opportunity, that there are some things that we can begin to work on. However, I am not naive to believe that all will be hunky-dory. Thirdly, historical, because we now have a Jamaican, a person of Jamaican extraction, an immigrant, a woman, a Black woman in the White House. That speaks volume for the psyche of a nation, and especially for persons of immigrant stature as myself. So it's opportunistic. And I'll leave it at that, because the road forward will be a very rough road, but it's opportunistic.
I think it's a return to a certain level of civility. And the country has certain pressing problems which it has not really been addressing itself, such as the problem of climate change, the problem of redistribution of wealth. We have a serious pandemic that is raging, and we have not really approached it in a very scientific, rigorous way to sort of deal with it. Hopefully there's a vaccine that is on the way. But I think we can really see the light where we are coming out of this nightmare of madness, insanity, vulgarity, and back to some level of normalcy.
Thank you very much. Dr. Green, what does this mean for the United States for you?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for letting me sit with this esteemed panel. As a Republican, I am happy that Biden has won. We have a woman of Jamaican extraction. Therefore, things should be great moving ahead. But I will caution you that we had a Black president in Obama. Did that help us much with respect to produce and import and all that stuff? So like someone said previously, don't be naive. We have to push and don't expect things to happen without force or working or making demands. But we can make demands gently. I don't think we have to fight with her.
I start with the words sanity in governance. And I think of we're moving from a me first in terms of me, Trump, and family first system of governance into a governance of we and for we the people. Think of it also internationally. It means that the United States now will become a part of the international forum of nations that will work together for the good of mankind rather than for what is in it for, as we're looking at it, me, versus Trump, and his minions who he supported in terms of certain dictators in the world that he became enamored with. And so I see that pretty much as it is. And as an immigrant myself, I think in terms of the immigration, the callous and inhumane immigration policy will be reversed. And I look forward to that, most importantly.
Coming behind the comments of the gentleman who spoke already, there is much of what they have said that I agreed with. Let me just emphasize a few points, however. One, dealing with COVID-19, there will be a stark contrast, by the way, in the way President Biden and his administration deals with the COVID-19 pandemic. We expect, as he has already indicated, that he will listen to the scientists and he will put in place measures that will work towards curbing or ending the pandemic and ensuring that every American receives the vaccine when it is ready, free of charge. We will see a reversal of the inhumane policies, immigration policies of the Trump administration. We will see reversal of many of the difficulties, many of the roadblocks that the Trump administration have imposed on legal immigration, on legal permanent residents acquiring US citizenship. We will see a reversal of the policy which snatched babies from the arms of their parents, with over 600 of these babies now whose parents cannot be located. We will see a complete reversal of Trump's America First policies when it comes to foreign policy. To sum it up, in 3 words spoken by the mayor of Paris, welcome back America. It is so important for America to provide moral leadership to the international community, rather than weakening international organization, promote multilateralism, which strengthens international organizations and institutions and defend international norms. We will see a number of changes that on the domestic front, where criminal justice with regard to Blacks and people of color and systemic racism will be tackled for the first time. I cannot look into the hearts and the souls of those who are supporters of Donald Trump, but I can only say this. As an immigrant or part of the immigrant community, I cannot support a racist, a bigot, somebody who is unquestionable xenophobic. I cannot support someone who looks at immigrants of color and say, we don't want people from countries to come to the United States. So I can't look into the soul of a Republican who supports and still support Trump.
Well, there are a
But
lot
I
of
can
issues
only
that we will
say
be
I
taking
find it very difficult to understand their perspectives.
There are a lot of issues we will pick up on Ambassador Ward, but we do now have Scherie Murray. She is a supporter of the Republican Party, and would like to ask her now to explain for us what she sees the immediate meaning of this election win for the United States.
Thank you so very much, and it's just an honor to be here with the Gleaners Editors Forum. And thank you for the opportunity to share my perspective with such a distinguished panel. As you stated, I am a Republican, very excited that our party's ideology speaks to upwards of 72 million people. And so as it relates specifically to your question, there is still a lot of uncertainty as it relates to the election that we just had here in the United States. And as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the Constitution is concerned, a winner has not yet been certified. The media has called a winner, but in some instances, some media outlets have not. So my perspective is really to better understand this process as we are going through a very tumultuous time. But we want to have certainty in our election process. We want to ensure that it's free, it's honest. And I would personally, if the opportunity presents itself, call on Biden to, in his message of unity, to call on those added investigations so that if he does turn out to be declared the victor in this 2020 election cycle, Republicans and Democrats alike will trust in the process, and perhaps he can execute his mandate as such.
Very well, lots to chew on right there. But let me go back to one of the issues which was raised by Ambassador Ward a while ago, that of the management of COVID-19. And I'd like to ask Dr. Green, what is he foreseeing in respect of the management of COVID-19 in the United States?
I will not be taking that injection. However, I will be forced to do so. For example, I wanted to visit my brother who has the COVID, is in a rehab. They say you have to take the nose swab. I had sworn I would not be doing it. So far, I've taken it 3 times. If I wish to visit Jamaica, I sure will have to take that injection because somehow it will be forced on us. Some of you may have difficulty understanding why so many Americans do not wear masks. You must understand these 3 values in America. Give me liberty or give me death, live free or die, and death before dishonor. Now, if you understand that, you will understand why these men, the original American, went out there against this mighty British army and helped form America. So there's need to be understanding regarding why men are acting that way. And with respect to the injection, being that it's not being to make a political issue now, it will be great for America to have one quickly. And the world, in America and the world.
Let me ask Dr. Wilson here, in respect of this issue of COVID, what are you expecting to happen in the United States of America now with Joe Biden at the controls come January?
Well, one of the things that I anticipate is a strengthening of the democratic process. Because one of the things that we have seen for the last 4 years is a weakening of the democratic process. We had someone in the White House who was more an autocrat than a Democrat. And if you look at the relationship between the White House and the Department of Justice, those distinctions and differentiations collapsed, and we began to see using the Attorney General in the most vulgar political way possible. All of that is detrimental to the future of American democracy. So I anticipate that one of the things that the Biden administration will stress is a return to separating the Department of Justice from the White House. The other thing that I anticipate that will be terribly important is to move energetically for economic recovery. A lot of people are now hurting. People are being removed from their rental apartments. People are losing their mortgages. There are about 21 million Americans who are unemployed. So we anticipate that there will be serious attempts to get the economy growing and moving again. Certainly if we can get an infrastructure bill, we are way behind in terms of infrastructural development. And then if we can really lower the unemployment rate, grow the economy, and in fact institute, terribly important, a progressive income tax. One of the weaknesses of American society is the lack of social responsibility on the part of the business class. You cannot have a capitalist economy and the business class has no interest in pursuing social responsibility. That is a disaster, and that will lead to the collapse of democracy in the United States.
Let us turn to the issue now, though, of immigration. Ambassador Ward a while ago was pointing to the fact that he is expecting to see significant changes in respect of immigration. Let's zoom in a bit more, Ambassador. What are some of the exact changes you are expecting to see in respect of immigration and the United States?
There were a number of executive orders which were issued by President Trump, which made legal immigration more difficult. It made the path to citizenship from legal permanent resident more expensive and with conditions which overburdened legal permanent residents. We will see a reversal of those policies again by executive order, where the Biden administration has pledged to remove those obstacles to citizenship. But in addition to that, DACA, which Trump has tried to remove the protections under DACA from almost 1 million immigrants who came here as children. And I want everyone to understand this. Of that DACA cohort, there are 35,000 Jamaicans that benefited from DACA, okay? And with the removal of DACA would be subject to deportation back to country, Jamaica, where they left as young children. That's number one. Biden has pledged through comprehensive immigration reform, which he will need the cooperation of the Congress to create a path to citizenship for the 11 million estimated unauthorized immigrants in the United States. And let me point out once again, of that 11 million unauthorized immigrants, there is about 140,000 people from the Caribbean who are in that group. And they too will benefit from comprehensive immigration reform. I want to emphasize that for all of those who support him, who are of color, he wants to make America white again. And thank God, over 75 million Americans said no.
70.
Over 75 million Americans said no, Mr. Trump. That's not what we want. We want a multicultural society. We want a society that is friendly to immigrants, because immigrants is what make America great.
Irwine Clare is a director of Caribbean Immigrant Services, and I'm sure he may want to come in just about here. What are you foreseeing in respect of immigration, particularly as it relates to Jamaica, the wider Caribbean, under a Biden leadership?
The security of family reunification, which seems to be something that some in our immigrant community has seemed to have forgotten, that was something that was under threat, serious threat, in fact, has already started. And what I mean, family reunification is where 90%.
You can lower the cord. We'll hear you just as fine.
Okay.
Right.
It's a situation where 90% or even higher of Jamaicans who migrate to the United States, that's the process. My mother petitioned for me. But many of us seem to, who supports the Donald Trump doctrine, seem to have closed the door on that. We see, for example, going forth, we expect the relaxation of the exposure to some 800,000 DACA dreamers. That is critical. The whole immigration sphere also has to deal with, you got to understand that when you have favorable migration policies, it means that the free flow of movement, especially from friendly borders like ours that are considered, I won't use a term that Ambassador Ward used because he has more rights than me to use that term. But the point is that we're friendly borders and we have seen the restrictions. I had serious concerns if the continuation of a Trump administration were to have been the case, because we have already been told that his czar, Mr. Stephen Miller, had in the drawers many other explosive procedures that would have further hindered the whole migration process. So again here, I caution. I mean, I prefer to err on the side of caution. It's not going to be easy. And that's why even as we speak today, all attention points to Georgia, because if the Democrats are not successful in securing those 2 senators, most of the things that would normally be going through the process of legislation will have to be done through executive order. Is that the best methodology? Not necessarily so. But does that put a fix in? Yes, it does. And the author, the major author of that is the present president. So I'm quite certain that those who were the victors or the victims of executive orders in the past may need to get used to it going forward, because that could be the case if the Democrats do not secure the 2 senators in Georgia. So on the whole scheme of things, again, I go back to opportunities. We are one country. We have differences in opinions, but we must be civil about it. And the way it's happening right now, I heard my countrywoman, Miss Murray, indicated about the whole situation that 72 million people voted for the president. But we also live in a society where those who have the most votes and the electoral votes are the winners. So I have to imagine that those who win will be given the opportunity to govern.
Thank you very much for that. I think Liverin Barrett is indicating that he has a question. Liverin?
The question that I wanted to throw out to the members of the panel. I'm glad Ambassador Ward touched on it a little bit. He referred to President Trump as racist, a bigot, and his attempt to make America white again. The fact is, 70 million persons, maybe 71, by the time the numbers are finished, still voted for President Trump. What is that telling us about the American society?
Maybe a good time to bring in Scherie Murray to answer that question or to take the first attempt at it. Scherie?
Thank you so much, and thank you for the question. That's a loaded one. Certainly we can take away a lot as we segue from immigration. And to your question, there are many people who voted for the president, and we, including myself, would like to see a free and fair and honest election. Now, the president has brought multiple cases to the courts, and in order for the election to be certified, those motions needs to be resolved. So there is certainly a process here at play, and we just have to take it one day at a time and let the process play itself out in order for Americans to heal, in order for Americans to unite. We must call for a free and fair election, and I really would call on your panel to do the same. I don't know how we as a collective would consider Joe Biden a legitimate president when you have half of the country disenfranchised by this electoral process. There are a lot at stake, including, to Mr. Clare's point, those races in Georgia. But as we learned yesterday, we now have secured, we meaning the Republican Party in the Senate, has secured 50. And so those 2 Senate seats out in Georgia will certainly tip the hat in our favor. And that would really put Biden, should he be the victor, and let's not count President Trump out, because as I stated earlier, some have not yet called the election for President Biden, Vice President Biden. And so time would certainly have to reveal who our president is. But from that point, I think you have to let the process play itself out in order for Americans as a whole to have faith and to be able to trust in whomever is declared the president.
May I come in here?
If you allow me,
Yeah, I'd like Patrick to respond, and then we'll come. Is it you, Professor Wilson? I'll let Patrick respond to this issue as to the question posed by Laverne, and then we'll allow.
Okay, let me bring some history. For the past 7 presidential election in America, majority has gone to the Democrats. The majority of the votes has been for the Democrats. That's the context. The second thing is that never in the past, I'm living here 40 years, the media has always been calling the elections and never have it been questioned. Point 3, Bush v. Gore. During that, immediately after the Supreme Court made this decision, Al Gore went in and made this concession. 2, prior to that, when George H.W. Bush was defeated by Bill Clinton, he was gracious. Same way Hillary Clinton in a more contentious election that in Michigan, for example, Trump won by less than 2,000. So I believe in science. I believe in mathematics. I went to school in Jamaica. That was one of the things. There's certain statistics that you cannot overlook. There's no way with all the recount, in every recount, the average of changes of vote is between 200 to 400. The critical states that are Georgia, Biden won by 14,000. Arizona is up by 30,000. So if you go on, Pennsylvania is going to win by over 100,000. So to say that there's no way, and it's just, Trump is just the sour loser and everything. I
think the question, though, Patrick, that Laverne is trying to get into is, given the fact that Trump had managed to secure over 70, a span of over 70 million, he's trying to find out, what does this say? What does this mean?
It says 3 things. And as an associate minister of a church and believe in the Bible and the gospel of Jesus, it says 3 things. A majority of a segment of America is stuck on greed, racism, and selfishness. That's all it boils down to. Because even some of our African American brothers who voted,
and Caribbean
401ks.
Yeah, the beauty about America, after our politics are done, we go together and we drink up beer. There's nobody house going bound down. There is nobody work going take away. So I hear the aspersion being caused about those who support Trump. Trump hit a chord when he said to Black people, those people from foreign countries, Syrian example, they will bring the clear skin one here and they give them the job over you. Trump hit a chord with many American people, men in particular. For example, once Trump won, you see people began to speak freely on social media, some using indecent language that they wouldn't use before. Trump opened up freedom and freedom of speech. There was also, no, in Austria recently you have some killing, right? In France you have some killing. People are fearful that some of these immigrants come here and they will create mayhem, murder, and death. It was also shown irresponsibility. Jamaicans were here for 30, 40 years and they were not citizens. They were into this thing, come here to drink milk and not pound cow. and they were being deported, and nobody wanted to leave America. So I will close by saying, Trump opened up our knowledge. Now everybody know about Electoral College. He has been a great teacher, but the only thing is that he has been going too far, and he has done something that borders on fascism and Hitlerism, and that is why people fear him. But
We're fast running out of time. Let's allow Ambassador Curtis Ward to weigh in on this, and then Irwine Clare.
Well, first of all, I very much appreciate the question asked, but I really want to put to rest the Trump talking points that I'm hearing repeated here today about let the courts decide. Just a couple days ago, in a court, and a suit brought by Donald Trump alleging fraud, the judge asked Trump's lawyer, who had to respond under oath, whether there is any evidence of fraud. His answer, no. Let me say this. I keep here talk about free and fair elections. The only person who sought to inhibit free and fair elections in the United States is Donald Trump. He has oppressed the votes of Black people. He has put obstacles in the way for votes, and he has said, and the Republican Party is very much aware, that the more people vote is the more ensured the Democrats are of being elected. Now, to answer directly the question.
Yes.
There are several points that could be raised. One, there is endemic racism in a large percentage of Americans. And this was given a platform by Donald Trump's racist policies and his, not just what came out of his mouth and his tweets, but what he has done to demonstrate that he is, in fact, a racist. So that has given rise to white supremacists in this country. And I would dare say at least 30% of the American population are white supremacists. And there's another large section that are anti-immigrant inside, but have never expressed that until Trump came around and openly expressed anti-immigrant policies and actions.
So you're saying your first point is that his vote margin has indicated that the issue of racism remains.
The issue of racism it remains very deeply embedded in American society.
Is there anything
the anti-immigrant, which is the other point, is tied to that. The America First policy, which is an expression of saying the rest of the international community be damned, everything is for America. And let me tell you, ignorance of the facts and being fed with a diatribe of daily diet of untruths by a small sector of the media has contributed significantly to the amount of votes he had. And I think those are the areas we have to look at going forward. Will America wake up to the fact that there is systemic racism in America? We saw some indications of this during the summer months. But this whole idea of you can't say Biden is the winner is a fallacy. It's fake. It's destroying America's democracy. It's destroying America's democracy.
Very well. Let me allow Irwine Clare to come in here to make his contribution to this question as to the meaning of vote margin.
The Ambassador Ward basically summed it up, and in the interest of moving along, I don't wish to regurgitate, but it does say that, you know, he's absolutely correct, that there are people here who supports the policies of this president based on those situational factors. There are folks who are protecting their environment. Do you realize that in Ohio, they said 50% of the women there voted for Mr. Trump? And the reason was that the story that got over to them was that he was protecting their community. Protecting them from whom? So yes, racism is one of the topical issues, and this administration has really brought it to the fore. But
my question, because I've been looking at Joe Biden's website, looking at his vision, and I have not seen the Caribbean on his radar. So I want to find out from you as a team, why should Caribbean countries continue the dependence on the United States? That's cynical carrot and diplomacy from the US. Why should we continue? What is the Biden-Harris agenda points? Any renewed meaningful interest in the Caribbean? Have you seen that from them?
Well, let's allow Professor Wilson to take that first, Prof.
Turn the question around in the sense that how can the Caribbean, in fact, extract much more access to America's economy than, let's say, what we're getting at present. Take, for example, there is CAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Area, which the Dominican Republic became part of that. And in fact, in the last couple of years, we have seen significant GDP growth in the Dominican Republic, perhaps partly the fact that they're connected to CAFTA. We need to come up with an agenda, not to be pacifist. What is it that we can, in fact, benefit in terms of not just the United States, but in terms of Canada, in terms of the world economy? How can we find our niches in the world economy? And there's no question that Caribbean immigrants, and in fact, Jamaica in particular, play an important role in the economic development in Jamaica in terms of their remittances, in terms of the expertise and the entrepreneurial know-how that they develop when they return from the United States to Jamaica. There's no question that America's played an important role in taking a part of Jamaica's surplus labor problem. And so there's no question that we benefit just based upon our accessibility to the American market. And what we need
we seem to have lost
and the productive capabilities of the Jamaican economy that can absorb our surplus labor and perhaps push down the chronic crime problem that we have been experiencing over the last couple of decades.
Very well, thank you so very much. Ambassador Ward, I'm going to allow you 30 seconds to respond to this before our final question for this segment. Go right ahead.
I'd like to answer after Ambassador,
sure.
if that's okay.
I agree with Dr. Wilson's perspectives on this. Bear in mind that when you go, and to respond specifically to the question about not seeing any reference to the Caribbean on Biden's website, what we see is a president that will embrace multilateralism, strengthening of international institutions, return to the Paris Climate Accord. These in themselves will benefit tremendously the Caribbean. Its immigration policy will benefit the Caribbean. Let's face it, if you end family reunification, and you know Trump has called it chain migration to sort of desecrate the whole question of family unity. Think about the reduction in remittances, the over $2 billion in remittances, which flow to Jamaica from the diaspora, with about $1 billion of that coming from the United States. Curbing immigration from the Caribbean will reduce that significantly and have a significant impact on Jamaican and other Caribbean countries' economies. The other thing has to do with trade. Just in September of this year, the Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership Act was renewed by the Congress for another 10 years. Jamaican agricultural producers and agricultural products export can take full advantage of that trade act, even without being a part of CAFTA, because anything coming in from Jamaica is duty-free. We have not taken advantage of the opportunities. Jamaica could double its agricultural export to the United States. And finally, the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, which was introduced in 2010 by President Obama. President Trump, immediately coming into office, decided to slash funding for the Caribbean security, training of law enforcement, equipment of law enforcement, maritime security, border controls, etc. Decided to slash that by almost 50% in his first budget. It was the Congress that reinstituted that level of funding. We can expect a Joe Biden to continue to fund CBSI and improve on it. And one final thing, the Caribbean Energy Security Initiative, which was introduced at the Caribbean Security Summit, convened in Washington by President Obama and overseen by Vice President Biden, which promotes alternative energy solutions for Jamaica and other Caribbean countries. Now we see in Jamaica, all over the country, conversion to use of natural gas. Because what? Under Obama, Jamaica was given a special license to import natural gas and be a distribution point of natural gas in the hemisphere. So you don't have to see specific references on the website to understand the implications of the policies as they will benefit Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean.
I think it would be
very well. Let me allow Scherie Murray to come in here. She will make a point and then we will close this section.
Thank you so very much. And thank you, Janet, for your question. It would certainly tell us where Biden stands on his positions to benefit the Caribbean region. I know firsthand, and I know you do as well, Ambassador Ward, as you went through several acts and updates and as it relates to trade and policy benefiting and or the Caribbean region. And you know firsthand that that extension was done under the President Trump's tenure. And I haven't heard you really give him credit for the good things that he's done. And I would certainly compel you to speak a message of unity as your Democratic leader is calling for and stop the divisive rhetoric that you've put out so far in our forum. In addition to that, what I'd like to say with regards to HR 4939, the Caribbean American Strategic Act of 2016, which was signed into law by President Obama and implemented by the Trump administration, has been a gift to the Caribbean region. And ambassadors and foreign ministers alike have spoken about the advantages, have taken advantage of this policy and its enactment. And with the time stipulations allotted to the specific Caribbean American Strategic Act of 2016, there's more to come. So I would encourage all of the Caribbean regions, not just Jamaica, but the 17 beneficiary countries that are a part of the, by US law, designated as the Caribbean region, to really look at the policy itself and take advantage of the ways that it can benefit the United States bilateral relationship with the region.
We're almost entirely out of time, and I want to ask.
But sorry to cut in, but I think I'm entitled to respond.
Yeah, rhetoric.
If I can give you 10 seconds this time, Ambassador.
I, for one, speak the truth. I don't engage in divisive rhetoric. The divisive rhetoric comes directly from the White House. I can only repeat or oppose what comes from the White House. As far as giving credit to President Trump, for renewal of the Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership Act. This is an act which had overwhelming support in the Congress, and it served no purpose for President Trump to oppose it. So don't give credit where he hasn't actively pursued a policy to engage with the Caribbean on that end. He speaks on a daily basis of America first. And that does not include extending any trade concessions to Jamaica, the Caribbean, or elsewhere. Certainly we want unity, but we're not going to see unity in the United States until President Trump abandons his Don Quixote trick to overturn the results of the election. There won't be any unity. So let's start with President Trump conceding defeat and be gracious and allow the transition to take place. That's what we're talking about.
We're almost entirely out of time, and I want to make the final question this to each of you, the members of the panel. What's the prospect for Donald J. Trump for 2024? Ambassador Ward, let me pick up with you in one sentence.
One sentence. He will continue to tease out the Republican Party that he will be, or possibility of running for office for president again in 2024. But what is his real objective? So he can continue to raise funds under that pretext. What will he do with it? First of all, he started doing it, and he's using the money to pay off some of his current campaign debt. He will also use it to defend himself in court as he goes along, and anything else that he can possibly use it for to serve himself. And while he's doing that, unfortunately, real Republicans, people of quality conservative values, who abandoned him during this campaign, who came out maybe in the millions and voted against him and his policies. True Republicans, Republicans of integrity. And these are the people that he's trying to hold in abeyance from running in 2024.
I have to stop you there. I have to put the full stop in for you, Ambassador Ward. Let me go to Scherie Murray to ask her in one sentence, what's the prospect of Donald Trump for 2024?
President Trump has delivered on his promises to the American people, not just Black people or white people, but all people. We went through a couple of things here, but I just want to say he's not a racist. I do believe in interim. He'll be a kingmaker for true Republicans. And I would just call on your panel to just know that we're all humans and we may have a difference of opinion.
Thank you very much. Irwine Clare, what do you make of the prospect for Donald Trump for 2024?
I have no interest in even going there. I'm more interested in what's the prospect come January 20th where we move forward this country. That's a waste of time for me right now. Donald Trump has his issues.
So what's the prospect for Donald Trump 2024?
Well, Donald Trump does control the base of the Republican Party. He is the hero. He's in fact took the party in a semi-fascist direction. So I think if he remains visible and they remain wedded to him, if he wants that nomination, he could get it, but I think he would lose again. You have to realize that the 2020 election is not a close election. He lost by over 5 million votes thus far. All the votes have not yet been counted in California and other states. By the time all the votes are counted, he will have lost by more than 7 million. Under a normal democratic system, there will be no question about who won or who lost the election. It is just because we have this archaic system of the Electoral College, where there's some waiting until all the ballots have been certified in the respective states. But I think it's very clear that the 2020 election was not a close election, and if he runs in 2024, he will again take the Republican Party into the last column.
Very well. Patrick Beckford, what do you make of the prospect for Donald Trump for 2024?
Unless there's a, I'm very serious, unless there's a provision where we could take someone out of the prison and have them vote for president, I think that's the way you would do. But, you know, fundamentally, I think one of the backbones of the Republican Party is the evangelical and the Catholic Church. And they have lost a lot of people who believed in it. Two things, abortion and gay marriage, and that is way down. And the prospects of the Catholic Church is down, the evangelicals have proven themselves, and there's no way Donald Trump will be ever running, I mean, for the reason that he's probably gonna be in jail or fighting to get out of jail.
Very well, let's go to Dr. Rupert Green for his sentence on what he believes will be the prospect of Donald Trump 2024.
First of all, we must laud him, because without Donald Trump, there would be no female president. Basically, this lady is going to be the president in 2 years from now. Now, as for the next election, he's dead on arrival. And what you will witness is the demasculation or the castration of those Republican senators. It's really disgraceful what they're doing, especially the bar.
Thank you very much. That therefore brings us to the end of this, our special Leader Editors Forum, looking at the United States post-election 2020. I'm Damion Mitchell. Thanks for watching.